Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week, once again, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, nerds?
What is going on indeed is that you and I hung out and went to a Distant Worlds concert this week, which is going to be one of our topics of conversation. And then also, in that Worlds theme, we've both been enjoying the Worlds Beyond Number, which is one of the new what is it? Not role play, actual play. One of those series featuring Brendan Lee Mulligan, Erika Ishii, Abria Iyengar, and Lou Wilson. And they did they're I think a couple episodes in to their like main campaign, but as kind of their character gen, they did a children's campaign, which we have been enjoying. So I'll chat a little bit about that and just kind of our thoughts on that as in general. And that'll probably do it for this episode. We're recording this ahead of time because I will be in Disneyland when this episode goes live. So yeah, we're gonna just kind of chat about a little bit of those things. Probably, I say make it a quick episode, but every time I say that, I feel like we end up rambling for like an hour and a half. So we'll see how quick it actually is. But if you do like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So Cam, Distant Worlds, this was your first time seeing a Distant Worlds concert. I'd been to one prior myself. What did you think? And feel free if you want to even roll back a little bit further and just gush about the very good sushi of our evening. Feel free to do that as well. Okay, but like,
okay, yeah.
No,
sorry. You hit me with the curveball on that because I was not prepared to talk about that, but I am prepared to talk about it because let me tell you about this sushi. Correct me if I get the name of the place wrong. It's Harumi.
Harumi, yes.
Harumi. I have never been to Harumi Sushi. Mainly because there's no way when I was going to school downtown that I could have possibly ever afforded to eat at Harumi Sushi.
Fair enough.
It was a fantastic time. It took us forever to get a seat. Trevor greatly did not realize that a place like that on a Thursday night in downtown Phoenix might be a bit filled.
I mean, it's not that I didn't expect it; it's that I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
Harumi. So yes, this is Harumi Sake and Sushi, or Sushi and Sake.
Sushi and Sake.
Okay. They're a place I first went to probably 5 or 6 years ago with a friend of mine downtown when I was like seeing a show or something like that, and immediately fell in love. It was great, and have gone there occasionally, every so often since then, and in particular, when I worked at the Phoenix Symphony right there downtown, I was literally like 2 blocks away. So it was quite a regular foray for like a lunch break in the couple months I worked there before COVID shut everything down. Because it was just delicious, and they have a great lunch special, and so yeah, it was a great time. And then yeah, as we were walking up, and I saw people standing outside, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot about this part. And that's even with they've like already expanded. Like when I last went there, the dining area was like just the half that we were on. There was a whole other half of new tables and stuff that had been added since then. And as we saw, like going in, they've done so well that they've actually they will be soon expanding to like an even larger place, like right across the street. So
a very nice place, gorgeous place.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I was well aware of the quality and the reputation of Harumi. I just forgot that also means, there's probably going to be a wait on, a Thursday evening downtown.
Well, I mean, it will also take in consideration it's right by, we were there for Symphony Hall, but the Phoenix Suns were having a game. And like also there are shows and stuff going on. Like downtown Phoenix is a happen and hoppin' place. Gosh, have I ever said anything that made me sound so goddamn old? Holy crap. Anyway. It was amazing. So I actually pulled up the menu because I want to make sure I get everything right.
Yeah. We finally got seated with like 40 minutes to go before our show, and I pretty much knew exactly what I wanted, so I'd like marked my little things on the menu and then hand it back over to you, and I'm just sitting there like kind of like doing like the thumb tapping, like anxious, looking at the timer, setting an alarm on my phone, so like and so every minute you're taking actually looking at the menu, I'm like, it's sushi, Cameron. Come on.
I want you to
come the
know,
fuck on.
you like that is the, and you can attest that is the fastest I have ever browsed a menu.
I don't know if I can attest to that, but I will say like it was definitely a more rushed experience than I think either of us would have liked on all fronts. Like we also definitely like gorged through that, and I felt bad because it is a very savory meal. So like just like engulfing it as quickly as we could is not the best way to enjoy it. But
also shout out to them because they got like when we told them we had a show at 8.
Yep.
They had us in and out of there ASAP. They knew, hey, we're not like they don't need to wait. Like appetizers came like literally like a minute before the food.
Actually, I think my Philly roll showed up first, and then your gyoza showed up.
Yeah, they literally as soon as they were finished making them, they sent them out, and it was awesome. Enormous shout out though to I got 3 rolls. The rolls that I got were the harumi, which is their house special, obviously what they're named after, which is a shrimp tempura, crab salad, avocado, cucumber topped with tuna, radish, spicy ponzo, spicy mayo, and masago.
You clearly have pulled up their menu.
I did. I told you. I mentioned it. I pulled up their menu. That's fine. So I also got the oh my god, which I'll get to in a second. Was it's the harumi signature roll, but what they do with it is so it's the harumi signature. It's a harumi signature roll, not the.
Yeah, it's one of their signature dishes.
It is. But instead of it being with all that stuff, it was crispy tempura shrimp, avocado, crab salad, topped with sweet shrimp and eel. Oh, it had eel. I had no idea it had eel on it.
Well, I probably would have enjoyed it.
Oh, wow. I actually really like that. I never thought I'd like eel. I've always been too afraid to try it. There you go. So sweet shrimp and eel, spicy mayo, eel sauce sprinkled with tobiko. And then I also got the Crab Mania, which was a crispy shrimp tempura roll topped with seared crab and spicy mayo and sweet eel sauce. That one is definitely my least favorite, but it's not because it was not like as like really, really good. It was really, really damn good.
I mean, I was being a simple basic boy, and I went with like my Philly roll, a California roll, and a rainbow roll.
That's true.
In days where I have more time, I would have probably thrown a spicy tuna in the mix, or maybe swapped out one for the other. But I was like, this is not going to be a war of attrition. This is going to be a war of time, and I'm just going to plow through these as quickly as I can. The other thing I'll really quick throw out about Harumi. Harumi was the first place I ever went that used like the purple rice or black rice or whatever that kind of rice was called. Just the not just white rice. It was the first sushi place I ever went that had that, and so it's always like a fun little like another one of their signature elements.
Also, their fish is all flown in fresh daily.
Yeah.
Which is like insane. That's so great. So the thing about the oh my god that like separated out. So I started off with the oh my god because it was the first thing that came to the table after the gyoza. Oh,
and it had a whole like show behind it.
Oh my god, it was so cool. So they bring it out and like wrapped in tinfoil, and I was like really so weirded out by it. But then he's like, to get the smoke, like a lot of the smoky flavor that we want in it, we do this, and he lit it on fire.
Yep.
He flambéed it, and it was so cool. Also, he had, clearly didn't realize it was going to be a little bit harder not letting it just sit for us. He's like, real quick, cool. You saw that it was on fire. Now let's put it out. And it's like trying to like get it out took a little bit, but it was brilliant. It was so deep and rich, and just the flavors were so incredible. Like it was just so like I would almost call it heavy with how much flavor there was to it. But it was sushi, so it was still light, and it was still light as far as like the density of the meal. Then I went to the harumi roll, which was like bright, crispy, like just so like lightly light, the lightness that you expect and you want from sushi. That's the harumi. It delivers it perfectly. It is a perfect, absolutely perfect sushi roll. And then the like I said, the Crab Mania was great, but just not like that on that tier. The harumi and the oh my god are, and literally I was like, Actually, I
Yeah,
said,
you said, "Oh my goodness," as he was
oh,
putting the fire out.
I thought I
think, or
said,
something.
oh shit.
I mean, yeah, you said that too, yes.
Yeah, when
But
he lit it on fire, I was like, oh
at
shit.
some point you said, "Oh my goodness," and he's
Yeah.
like, "That's what it's named for."
Yep, it's true. Because I was like, oh wow, it's really on fire. Like, it's really on fire. This is amazing. I've never had a dish set on fire for me before, so that was just like the next top tier. Yeah, so like it was just never been to Harumi before. Next time we go, we definitely have to get like sit down for longer, get sake.
Oh yeah. We'll have to go like when we're not on a time crunch, just to go and like enjoy some time.
And I gave you a not a heat or anything, but I did mention like, oh, you didn't think that it would be busy, but also like they don't take reservations.
Yeah.
So like straight up, it's walk-ins only. That's like it's awesome. I can't wait for them to get their new place. One, because it looks like a massive place, but also two, it looks so fancy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping it won't be nearly as loud as their current one. When you're in a smaller space, a lot of times you use loud music so that nobody just hears just the kitchen. But yeah, it was great. Or if we go to that place again and they haven't moved over yet, we should definitely sit at the bar. And because I also saw they have like actually this might be too adventurous for you. I just realized. Sitting in and like letting the chef pick the sushi rolls for you.
I mean, yeah, that's probably not something I'll do, but
yeah,
knock yourself out.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely want to do that at some point. Yeah, no, they are awesome. Also, the staff was like super nice.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like just super super kind and considerate. Like I already mentioned, they got us in and out in like 20-25 minutes tops, and it was great.
Yeah. You didn't have the sake, right?
No. We didn't have sake.
Yeah, that's definitely another thing to try, just because I think it also works very well with the sushi. So
I really want to try the oh my god with sake. I think that would, because it's such a deep, rich flavor. Having like something as poignant and pungent as sake would definitely help out a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll definitely have to plan a return trip. You enjoyed it so much. I was like, I want to give you the opportunity to like sing its gushing praises and whatnot. Especially because it's been a place. Yeah, it's up there with Cornish pasty, which is also right
down the street.
There is one right downtown. Yeah, the one I typically go to is over here in Tempe, but or there's now a closer one to us here in Old Town Scottsdale.
I really want to go with you sometime because it's one of your favorite places.
Yeah,
so.
it's like Cornish pasty, Harumi, and Short Leash hot dogs are like my three favorite places. I haven't been to Short Leash in years and years and years, just because I'm never downtown anymore. But like, yeah, those are the three places if people like come to town. I'm like, you should try going to one of these places if you're looking for food. So yeah, I'm glad I got to introduce you to that. So that aside, we ate very quickly, and then we walked very quickly back over to the convention center and enjoyed our main entertainment of the evening, Distant Worlds, a Final Fantasy 35th anniversary special concert. So what'd you think there, Cameron?
It was amazing. Getting to hear Final Fantasy music live. I really don't think there's anything like it. It's such a unique experience because you see like game stuff going up on the screen, but like you just can't help but feel drawn to musicians as they're playing. And there's some very unique moments in Final Fantasy music that getting to see it replicated live is brilliant. And you have the Phoenix Symphony, who is just like, these are people who are local to the area, but they are masters of their craft. They've dedicated their lives to it. And it's absolutely phenomenal just to see this music performed live. The chorus arrangements that came at the second half were awesome. We had that like wonderful performance by Susan
Calloway.
Susan Calloway, yeah. Her performance of Answers was the entire Answers section was just a like mind-blowingly great experience. I had so much fun, and getting to enjoy it in a room full of people that are also really excited for that music.
Mm-hmm.
It adds to the excitement. You tweeted out you tweeted out about it, about like anytime you hear like a pop for Sabin suplexing a train.
Yeah.
It's like you're in a good place with good people. And also shout out to the amazing cosplay.
Yeah.
A lot of the cosplay was like the more done up outfits. We saw a couple of Aeriths. We even saw a Tifa with the
when we were leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were leaving, we saw like them. Shout out to the Thancred, Reen, and Gaia trio that were there. Shout out to the dude who I was sitting next to, who was dressed up as a full-on Asian, like out like robe, hood, mask, the whole shebang. It was awesome seeing those folks. And shout out also to the person who was like, wow, that Asian outfit might be like the most overt cosplay here. And then I see somebody with full-on like Makode like ears, like just like out there, and I was like, wow, okay, cool. It might have been a full Graha Tia cosplay, which is why I bring that up. But also there was that one gal with bunny ears too. Like yeah,
there's bunny ears. The girl right in front of us.
Oh, that's right.
I was like, Final Fantasy VIII, not my favorite. So I was like, is that like a Renoa? And you were like, oh no, it's like Big Sis. And you looked it up, and it's Elone.
Elone, yeah.
From which also still Final Fantasy VIII,
yeah,
right?
It is Final Fantasy VIII. It's Elone is the Big Sis character, or like she is a more mysterious character that is tied to the overarching plot of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah. But still, like, that's like such a deep cut of a character cosplay.
No,
she just looked like a nice lady dressed up for the show.
Exactly. That was the most brilliant part about a lot of these cosplays. It's like, oh, there's that. But if you didn't, but you see the touch of Final Fantasy to some of them.
Yeah.
And it was awesome just to see.
Yeah, the comparison I made is like Disney bounding, where it's like Disney doesn't want you showing up as like a princess. But if you deck out like in the colors and kind of have like a garb designed or inspired or like to reflect that character or something like that. Yeah, it's a pretty common thing you see there. So yeah, it was cool to see those kinds of things. I joked a day or two before the concert, I got an email basically like, thank you for your interest in Distant Worlds. Here's a list of like, basically here are the approved weapons you can have if you're bringing weapons as props. Because
didn't see any props. No, that's not. I didn't see any weapon props. I saw plenty of props.
Yeah. I think last time I went to it, which is probably like 5-6 years ago now. I want to say there was like a cloud there with like a giant ass Buster Sword. But yeah, if they didn't, I did not see him this time. But we were also up in the balcony, so there could have been plenty of people down on the floor that that were even more decked out and whatnot. But yeah, I like the structure of it now. I don't remember if it was that way before, but it's like, all right, the first half is going to be, Final Fantasy 1 through 6, and they kind of go largely chronologically. They, jump ahead or cut back every now and then they kind of let the second act be 7 on. And so yeah, that's like when the chorus came out, I was like, ooh, we're getting some One Winged Angel. And then we didn't get One Winged Angel to start. We got the Final Fantasy 8 song, but still had a choral thing. But yeah, like getting to, especially having just recently played through so many of these songs in theater rhythm, like so many more things were coming to mind than maybe would have otherwise. Like I'll freely admit, like 1, 2, and 3 are not games I played a ton. My real introduction and start with Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy 2/4. And it wasn't until like later that I went back and played those first 3. And I've probably only played them 1 or 2 times in my life. So I don't have like a great affinity for that music, but still like so many of like the iconic themes, of course, started in those games. You of course get like the Prelude theme and the Chocobo theme. And so kind of getting both of those like in an opening medley thing of Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 music was a good way to kind of like bring in everybody for the evening, kind of like set the stage. And yeah, like, just from the onset, I found myself tearing up because like, it is really cool getting to see that music in a like room surrounded by people that love that music. Like when we got to the Final Fantasy, and they were like, all right, we're doing the Phantom Forest, the Phantom Train, and On the Veldt kind of thing. And I was like, all right, well, if you're doing that sequence, and I know that like they usually do the video to accompany it, you gotta have Sabin suplexing the train.
You gotta
right?
have it. You gotta have
and so when it happened, yeah, got a cheer for me, and I was very happy that it got a cheer and applause from a lot of other people because I was like, hell yeah, because yeah, so great, so fun, and yeah, I was really sad I didn't get to do a couple years ago. Or pre-pandemic, they were going to be coming out with the like Final Fantasy remake dedicated Distant Worlds.
Oh, yeah,
that was just going to be Final Fantasy VII remake music, and then that ended up obviously getting postponed. a couple times, I think. And by the time it finally happened, I was just like, the one or two seats that were still available when I, went and looked, were way more high priced than I was interested in. So I just kind of like skipped over it. But as we you had moved in when I got the emails for this one, I was like, hey, that'll be a fun thing we could go do together. And so yeah, it was a fun evening out. Any favorite numbers? I mean, obviously answers you already highlighted. That's another thing. Like, I think they did answers probably the last time I saw it too. I don't know if it was also with Susan Calloway, but like, I hadn't played Final Fantasy 14 at that time, so I didn't have like the context for it and stuff. It was like, oh, this is cool, good music and stuff. But yeah, it was like fun now in context and having like heard that song and like within the context of the game and enjoyed it and stuff like that. So
I teared up when it was like at its zenith. There's not only that, but they had like the OG Realm Reborn trailer playing with it, because that's Answers is debuts in that.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely fantastic. Like I mouthed along with it. It was so great. Just seeing that was awesome. But also Eternal Wind. Eternal Wind is one of my favorite themes. It's often showcased in Final Fantasy 14. But I remember it originally on when I was playing my Nintendo DS. I had bought like third or fourth handed from a friend Final Fantasy 3 on it. And when that theme plays, it just hit me in a way. And so every time I hear that theme, it makes me feel like adventure and of a journey ahead of me. And it's such an impactful song for me that I really didn't even realize it until when we were listening to it. When they announced it, I was like, oh, I love that song. It's like, oh, I do. Yeah, I love that song. And then as I'm listening to it, it's like, this is a song about what I consider like the true call to adventure.
Yeah,
it's truly great.
For me, that's like the Returners / Locke's theme in Final Fantasy VI. The dun 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 dun. And the last time they came through, they had in the most recent like Distant World CD at the time, I think it was like Volume 4. They had a Final Fantasy VI character medley that like I still will listen to just to like hype myself up, because it has like just a great turn in there. It's a mix of like Terra and Kefka and Gao and then like it has that. Oh, and of course Celeste's theme. But then like really just like you get the Locke bit of it and just this like call to adventure and like the percussive stuff for so many of these themes were fun. Like I don't really care about Final Fantasy 13, and like the Final Fantasy 13 number here, I was like, God, that is a good opening song and good music, and damn it, why is this making me want to go and like revisit 13?
So here's the thing, and I'm gonna let you know, I've never played Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, okay.
I've never played it. I had a friend who literally bought a PS3 for it. And so all I ever heard from him was like, I can't wait to play it. I can't wait to play it. And then he finally played it, and he told me, he goes, Cameron, you're like one of the only other Final Fantasy fans, like diehard fans I know. I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, don't play this game. I was like, why? He's like, it's not good. I was like, oh, okay. And that.
Weirdly, I think you would probably really like it because there's all sorts of absurd, stupid lore shit.
Oh, for sure. No, he explained it to me, and honestly, that shit is possibly too stupid even for me. Maybe playing it firsthand, I might have a different opinion, but like there's a lot of like things that like. I think that game struggled for a very long time. Not just in its not even just with its technical development, like Final Fantasy 12, 13, and then later 15 all had really like just different areas of struggling with its development. 12 was handed off directors because one of them just like had like a nervous breakdown and had to like leave. I think that was the case. Anyway, he left. Like, it was a very big deal that he was leaving the production. More so than even when Tetsuya Nomura handed off Final Fantasy 15. I think maybe it was because it had never been done. And then 13 was like stagnant for such a long time because of technical issues. But
yeah, 13 was just taking forever. Like, for me, the argument I've always kind of made is like starting with like Final Fantasy 10. I mean, probably actually starting with like Final Fantasy 7, but at least 7, 8, 9, they were able to kick out pretty quickly in that hardware. But then they really became like well, we really want to lean into like the technical stuff.
Mhm.
That's when you got the Final Fantasy Spirits Within, like, and they wanted to start making the most beautiful like cutscenes that you'd ever seen. And so we would just see Final Fantasy 13 every couple of years, and it was just like, oh, they've clearly been putting just more and more time into to the cutscenes and stuff like that. And finally, once they got it done and out the door, they were like, well, probably poured too much money into this engine, so we need to make 2 more games in rapid succession to make up for it. And neither of them are great.
Yeah, I remember. I'll never forget Alexa Korea explaining she's like, yeah, she like her roommate heard her say on like a stream or something, or like a podcast, like, yeah, Final Fantasy 13, like I had a good time with it, and then her friend being like, you lied, you cried because of how how bad that game was, and I've just been like, that just seems like what's funny is my friend who hates Final Fantasy 13 loves Final Fantasy 13 too. And then he said Final Fantasy 13-3, like Lightning Returns, is just really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, He goes, yeah, he goes, 2's really, really good though. And he was like, 2's good because the combat is like more like a collection, like almost like pseudo, like you collect monsters as you're battling through them, as well as like having cool abilities from Sarah and whatever the other character's name is.
Yeah, I don't remember.
The boy.
Yeah.
It was interesting though that I thought the sequel idea was, like, at first I thought the sequel idea was dumb, but then it kind of dawned on me that this is a character who's super important to the lore, who is a statue the entire, like a crystal statue the entire first game.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see kind of that. And that's, like, I've always wondered, like, would I like Final Fantasy 13? But then I remember some of the plot hooks, because I was watching the trailer too, I was like, maybe I should play it. And then I remember some of the plot hooks, I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's a rough one. It's definitely one, like, it'll be interesting to like go back and revisit when I do an inevitable like replay of all Final Fantasy. It's definitely like, especially with like the pixel remasters now coming to console and stuff, it is like probably just on the back burner of, all right, let me, like, I'll be able to play all of them on like a modern thing. I've even back a year or two ago, I thought about doing like a full, playthrough of everything. So I picked up the Lightning trilogy on Steam even. So I have access and can play through all of them on like a modern system. So yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and check out. Like 12's another one that, like, I didn't like the combat system in 12 or 13 as much as a lot of other people did. And
12 was interesting because I thought 12 was very ingenious in a lot of its ways, but when you get to the mid to late game, 12, like, it's
Noel, by the way, is the Final Fantasy 13 2 character.
Thank you.
Gonna just shout that out there in case anybody's been yelling it at their phone or whatever.
Yeah, just like it's such a, like, that mid to late game, the kind of like nuance or kind of like enjoyability of kind of like the job board and all that stuff kind of gets to a point where it's like, okay, well, I can just, like, I use these 4 characters for such a long time. Do I really want to spend time with other characters? But also, does it really matter?
For me, it's like I don't like the gambit system and like
the gambit system.
Like putting having to build the rules of your characters, your party's AI. I would much rather have just been controlling all 3 characters, kind of thing. But that doesn't work with the flow of the game. But even that, like, when the Final Fantasy 12 number came up, I was like, God damn, even though I don't like this game, has great music. And the weirder thing for me was, like, while watching the video that's playing alongside it and stuff, I was like, wow, why didn't I like that game as much? Because, like, everything they're showing in the video is like highlighting the, like, Star Wars-esque nature of it.
Oh yeah.
Like from the designs being very like prequel inspired and stuff like that, to like Balthier and Fran basically just being Han Solo and a sexy Chewie. And then, Vaughn and Ash are basically a Luke and Leia kind of thing without the familial relationship. But it is just like, oh yeah, that's just like, in the same way that, like, so much of what I love about Final Fantasy VI, I realized after the fact was like, there are a lot of Star Wars inspiration and elements in there as well. So yeah, I was just like, why didn't I like that more? Oh, it's probably because like the writing was bad and like I didn't care about those
Oh,
characters
you didn't
as
like the
much as
writing?
in Final Fantasy 12. No,
Yeah,
no.
I like the writing.
I mean, like it's and it, I think I think there's probably a
Well,
part of it that like I probably like Balthier and Fran more than I remember, but like I really didn't like Van. I really didn't like Ash.
I had issues with
Penelo,
Ash
yeah.
as well, but by the time you get to the end of the game, I appreciated her. But I found it interesting because at the end of the game, you have basically the same principled I like belief that the main villain does, but the way that either of you are executing it, well, because you are unfortunately forced to react to the main villain who is not actually the main like there are aspects of 12 that I really like as far as like its world, its lore, the way the characters feel about it. The fact that the characters come to an like towards the end of the game, the characters come to like a really like very good, I think, kind of like decision on what they decide to do. Ash makes a um very difficult decision to on how she's going to approach it because she's essentially promised everything she could possibly want. And this entire time, it's been kind of built that, like, Ash at the beginning of the game would have taken that hands down. Ash, by the time she gets to that point, because of the journey and also her relationship with Penelo and Vaughn, and learning from all the different characters around her, she makes a different decision. And Vaughn goes from just being like, yeah, I kind of like, I just want adventure and stuff, as a way of trying to ignore his familial pain and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Balthier's who it has a lot of like resolving your past issues.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody except like even Penelo, like to a much smaller degree she does, but her story is really more about building up her relationship with the I think it's Arcadia is the empire in that game.
Yeah.
The Arcadian prince and kind of like their burgeoning kind of like friendship and development. That's really more those two, like their role in the story, but everybody else is basically dealing with like overcoming past either past decisions that were made by them or decisions that had greater impact to them. It's kind of like the idea of like political fallout as it kind of goes through the social structure also.
Yeah, I can also also admit and acknowledge that I think one of the elements that I love in a lot of the Final Fantasy stories that I love is some kind of central romance, and the fact that there is no like romance in 12, no like romantic connection among characters. I think that's another element that just I'm like I missed that, especially after 9 and 10 in particular. I think have some really strong romantic beats between their core characters. And then same with 13 is another one that like doesn't have that, so I miss out on that.
No, the thing about 13 and 12 is that the characters that are in a romantic relationship were in a romantic relationship before the game started.
Or they're like they're not your main character. Mm-hmm. They're ancillary party members or something like that. It's also I don't like 15 a lot because of that as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of a core thing that I miss the romance of a Final Fantasy narrative. But anyway, back to Distant Worlds.
Yeah, Distant Worlds was the fact that we got off on a trail talking about like our feelings that Distant Worlds made us feel about these games is means that it did its job.
Yeah.
It made us nostalgic and made us love these worlds and these characters and these stories all through the music. And the music was incredible. Shout out to the company for keeping going even through like some really like
they had a bunch of tech issues.
Yeah, second half was like riddled with them. Like shout out to them like just overcoming everything and just like performing through the end. Shout out to them like busting out some Advent Children cinematic stuff going on for the Sephiroth scene, like awesome.
Yeah, that's the dual encore of Tizanarkand and then One Wing, the of course the crowd pleaser One Winged Angel.
Tizanarkand, I was so Trevor knows this because I've told him I'll say it here. I'll out myself. I love watching people react to the ending of Final Fantasy X for the first time. Because I'm a monster. I'm a monster. I cried. Now I want everyone to cry. So getting to see having that fresh also, off of a fresh couple of those batches of watching people go through that, and then watching Tizanarkin, the cinematics that they chose, and I think another thing also is the cinematics and the gameplay choices that were chosen for the accompaniment with the actual music were masterful.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never in a million years thought to use anything from the opening of Final Fantasy X of the Blitzball scene as like a poignant, emotional moment ever. But they slide in a slice of that, and it's perfect.
It's because the actual music that's going on during that scene is very like high action, high intensity kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah. But
there were definitely a few, and they had video stuff in the last concert too. They've definitely tweaked it though. In particular, I feel like, especially in like the old like text only games, I feel like a lot of the dialogue was just gone. And in particular, like, I'm pretty sure when I did it before, it had like a lot of Japanese dialogue in there and they didn't have it like localized. So I feel like they probably just like cut it out from everything just so they can just have one set of videos. The other thing I'll shout out, in the 1, 2, 3 medley, guys playing clearly had like no encounters turned on or something like that. Cause guys like running around the overworld map like way too long without running into a random encounter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Also, like, I am a little sad because I'm a big fan of the not 3DS, but the DS remake of 3.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the fact that they showed like OG stuff from 3, like, that's fine. I miss the DS version of my big bobbly headed.
They gave you the image of them when they did your Heavenly Wind. The intro, like each number would have like Final Fantasy 3 and then like an image of the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that was actually really cool too. Just awesome stuff. Just beautiful scores. Shout out to the conductor for just like rolling with some of those punches, but also just like saying like having such high energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Arnie Roth's been doing this for a long time. I'm pretty sure he was the guy that I saw last time as well.
Nice.
Yeah, he's their kind of one of their core conductors. Yeah, he's a lot of fun. Definitely got over enthusiastic a couple times. Was like, like he starts to introduce a new thing. He's like, I forgot that we haven't done this one yet. So here, let's do this.
He clearly has some favorite pieces that he got really excited about.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Loved the way they play with like the victory fanfare kind of thing was a fun one. Yeah, just it is so much fun. Not only seeing them live, but in particular seeing it live with like a crowd of the people that love it. I recently watched on Disney Plus like Encanto live at the Hollywood Bowl kind of thing, and like the added love of like getting to see all those performers doing those songs live was like them doing it live in front of an auditorium filled with like children and like people just in awe over what they were seeing on the stage. So love that here, and especially like, you know, it being largely like, you know, our generation or a little bit younger or a little bit older that are the people who are coming out and seeing this, and not like, you know, a whole bunch of blue hairs that I would see at, you know, a Beethoven concert for the symphony or something like that. It is very much like this is like, I feel the same when, you know, like we're doing a concert of John Williams music and something like that. It's getting to see this very classical art form of symphonic music, but playing things that like we, you know, are modern and not, here's a thing from 300 years ago by people, you know, who are long dead.
Yes.
You know, the love that everybody had for like Nobuo Uematsu when he gets name dropped and stuff like that was so wonderful. So
the fact that Nobuo Uematsu chose so many pieces that weren't done by him for this one speaks just like, one, love that guy. Two, what a great way of like being like, I love that the idea that every year he picks a different ensemble of music to pull from, and it's nice to see that it's not just all of it's Nobuo Uematsu. It is a great lineup of just fantastic composers.
Indeed, yeah. Um, any final thoughts before we move over to Worlds Beyond Number?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a short one.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much we have to say about Worlds Beyond Number, I
That's
suppose.
true. I'm only finished through episode. I believe it's episode 5 is where that ends.
Yeah, you've caught the first arc basically. Have you
Yes.
started episode 6 where they kind of dive into like a later that summer kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I have. Let's see. Yes, I have finished episode 5. Very beginning of episode 6.
Yeah. So yeah, the children's arc for those that don't know, as I kind of alluded to at the top, Worlds Beyond Number is a new Patreon funded, but it's available to anybody. Podcast, actual play podcast with Brendan Lee Mulligan, Erica Ishii, Abria Iyengar, and Lou Wilson. Many of whom you've probably seen if you follow the actual play space in Dimension 20 stuff. They've all been on Critical Role stuff, either in Calamity or EXU, or Erica was in a little arc there in Campaign 3 for a little while. So they're all well-known figures in the actual play space and have been friends for many, many years, and they finally got this thing off the ground. And I got very excited for it just out the gate because as much as I love Dimension 20 and what got me into actual play stuff, like I'm so excited to see Brennan do a long form story and campaign as opposed to his traditional 18 episodes, something like that kind of thing. Like a season where he goes in having a beginning, a middle, and an end. Like this long form version of it's going to be a thing he builds with his cast of characters is going to be very exciting. And also it'll be the of the actual play I've experienced, at least it will be the smallest cast with only 3 PCs. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. And if you do support them on Patreon, you get access to the children's campaign, which is basically their character creation level 0 campaign, where they kind of play all of their main character or main campaign characters, but as itty children, kind of getting to meet for the first time, and figure out what feats do they want to do, how do they want to roll new skills sets and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just a really fun, interesting way to build a character as opposed to just doing it, on paper and stuff like that. Letting the narrative choices that they make kind of influence some of the traits that they're going to have as their adult characters was a ton of fun. And yeah, and they're just all top of their craft, excellent players, and so much fun even though it's not a thing I can watch like I do with Critical Role or Dimension 20, it's such a well polished and produced product that they have soundscapes and stuff edited in a wonderful version. Taylor, I don't remember his name. Taylor something is the guy who is kind of the producer that does a lot of that stuff.
He sounds nice.
Yes. Yeah, he sounds nice as he outros every episode.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And so in context, I have finished the children's campaign, which is 8 episodes, roughly 2 hours a piece, kind of thing. And I've listened to the first of, I believe now 2 of their main campaign episodes. I'm going to probably listen to episode 2 on my drive out to California tomorrow. And have been looking forward to that. So, but they also did in the lead up to their launch for Patreon, they had this character then and now, and so you got to see a scene of that character as a child, and then a scene of that character from the main campaign stuff. So a lot of those beats I've already seen or heard rather, but yeah, it's still just getting to experience it in the context of the full story is a delight.
I think the biggest thing for me is seeing Brennan build a D&D world that is not a D&D world. This is very much, and of course I have very brief introductions to it, but it is very much built with the emphasis and the magic kind of feel of it is not is this a swords and sorcery, steampunk. It's very much not any of that. It feels very true to their ideas. They mentioned in interviews, and it's very much inspired by the artwork. That this is very
Oh yeah.
much taking notes from things like Miyazaki films as far as the kind of like atmosphere of the world, which is it's magical and there's danger, but there's also whimsy and fun. And I don't think that's expressed anywhere better than Lou Wilson's character's introduction as Ursulon, as this young spirit that has to like that gets introduced to the world and has like such a phenomenal adventure to it. And there's something about the whimsy of being a face, the idea of being a face spirit, and the idea of that entire aspect of a lack of mortality and also responsibilities tied to moral decisions having impact on something greater than just themselves. And to see that matched with also this like very like episode 0 starts pretty damn dark with like some very very like violent imagery, especially when you think that these are they are playing children.
Mm-hmm.
There's violence in the imagery of it, and so I think that's your introduction to the larger world as a whole of like there's conflict and something going on. I think one part of me thinks that's phenomenal. Also, like the beginning part of the then and then the now of Suvi, which is Bria Iyengar's character. Yeah, Bria Iyengar's character.
Yeah.
Her kind of like world is very much, and I read an interview where she said, my character is very much your D&D centered character. I am of the world that we're talking about. Where Lou's character is very much not of the world, and therefore has that, I think, a lot more of that like fantastical whimsy to it versus there are parts of this world that are very, very hard and harsh, and it's very obvious from her part of it. Then you have somebody who's in between, some like very much styling, not just because of like that's her character's place, but also the idea of a witch being somebody who builds a community, and that's Erika Ishii's character. Erika Ishii's character, who is, especially as a child, is like I'm so torn because I love them all so much.
Mm-hmm.
But her character's introduction, like her very first part, is definitely the most fun.
Yeah. Like she has, well, like Suvi's introduction, absolutely, as you kind of touched on there, like
dark.
It's she is introduced in pitched combat, tragedy befalling her parents, and you know a very sad kind of like introduction to her character. Whereas Ame the witch is like, you know, the Studio Ghibli-esque protagonist who is, you know, a very bubbly kind of like outgoing kind of character. And then Ursulon has also tragedy to his story, but is like that tragedy comes later, and the like introduction to his story is wild, whimsy, free. He is the wild one, as it is the wizard, the witch, and the wild one. Mm-hmm. Is the story they are telling. And he is living in a carefree world of spirits where all he has to deal with are the other spirits playing tricks on one another and stuff like that. And it's not until he, you know, leaves his Feywild into the mortal realm or something like that that he starts to have to experience consequences for actions and stuff like that.
It's phenomenal. It's done so well. Brennan Lee Mulligan is a master storyteller, but seeing masterful players like these three do what they like, do this incredible work. It's like, first off, I love that they're just focused on telling a good story. They're not worried about visuals, play sets, character, like none of that. None of that is happening. It is all audio. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing for me because I get so easily distracted while I'm listening to audiobooks and stuff like that for an audio podcast, it requires my focus. But so far it's been easy to focus with these. The hardest time I think I had was, I think, trying to start episode 6 after kind of like the phenomenal conclusion of episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
I had to stop myself because I realized, oh, this isn't something that I can just like binge. It's something that I have to be prepared for. And I was not prepared for like a quick reset.
Yeah, it's interesting because you you gather from those episodes that like episodes 1 through 5 all recorded in like one long sitting, because you get like the introductions to kind of each of their characters, and then like all their characters coming together, and like, and
Oh my
it
gosh.
does like it was designed as a session 0 effectively, where like Brennan kind of creates an end to that story there at the end of episode 5, and like in the outro there seems to be entirely ready to move on to the real campaign with the characters. And so yeah, having seen like, well, okay, there's a 6, 7, and 8, like what's that going to be, jumping into 6 and you realize, oh, okay, yeah, they've reunited. They don't even necessarily remember everything that happened in that first session. Some things need to kind of be refreshed a little bit, or they repeat, you know, a moment here or there because they forgot that they did it last time around or something like that. It is interesting to like know that in the context of like, okay, so now they're finishing this like children's story, but this is like a second chapter of the children's story effectively, and they're kind of having to pick back up again.
If episode 0 is the prologue, this is certainly feels like it's the epilogue. Or not an epilogue, like an afterlog or something like that, like something very much postscript.
I mean, they're all there is no, I would say there is no episode 0
or episode 1, I suppose,
so much as like these episodes 1 through 8 are all prologue.
That's true.
And so yeah, this is basically like the second chapter of a prologue that will be the actual story proper will begin. And I think I will say, without like diving into spoilers, I will say that episodes 6, 7, and 8 do a much better job. Like if you ended at episode 5 and then go into like the main campaign where the characters are all split apart again, and have to kind of come back together, you'd probably be a little bit more hard pressed to figure out like, okay, but why aren't they like, they had this magical, you know, experience as kids, like what drifts them apart, and you get a better sense of that over the second session of their kind of pregame session. Cool. So that's what 6, 7, and 8 have in store for you is what starts to not necessarily like break them up, but like how does life intervene in a way that this is more about their one magic summer together as opposed to their child as a whole.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it still. It was just like I just couldn't bounce back that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time I've had a hard time listening to it. Other than that, it's just like I have to stop because I have to get back to work. I've been listening to them on my lunch break. Yeah. I literally take my little sign that says if I'm available or not on my front of my desk. I turn it to do not disturb. I close my door. I don't lock it in case somebody does need to come in and get me. And then I turn off the light in my office, and then I just sit back and just like lean back into my chair and just listen and just absorb the words and absorb the world and imagine it. And it's so wonderful.
Yeah. I can't wait to hop back into kind of the main story stuff and just see where that goes. Especially like one of the things I look forward to enjoying now will be the fireside chat kind of conversations they have, where it basically like, okay, the episode's live, listen to it, give us questions and stuff like that. I haven't listened to the first fireside or the fireside chat of their first episode, because I hadn't listened to the first episode yet. So I didn't have a chance to like submit questions or anything like that on the Patreon. It was like, I'm still going through the children's stuff, like by the time that came out. So it'll be kind of that, like, once you're caught up, will there be things where I'm like, I really want to know what they were thinking about this. Maybe I'll ask questions or something like that. But yeah, I'm very excited for it. It's like throwing this into the mix of keeping up with Critical Role and Dimension 20, the Never After stuff. I will almost long for a day where, not all three are happening. Like I appreciate that this is a new episode every other week. So it gives me plenty of time to catch up on the episode while juggling all of the other stuff that I consume, before feeling like I'm, left behind or lost or something like that. So, but yeah, very excited to see where, and the other thing I'll shout out, to your comment there about, Suvi is the wizard, the like archetypal Dungeons and Dragons character of this world. I'm excited to see what the witch looks like, because it is a custom class
Oh
that
yeah.
Brennan and a collaborator kind of created, and you get to see a little bit of elements of that in 6, 7, 8. Kind of like how some of those mechanics get introduced and are utilized and stuff like that. So even that's going to be interesting to see. And then I think
Loose characters. I think you said he's very much like a paladin character.
yeah.
I'm very curious about, because paladins can get paladins mechanically very much all the same. What makes a paladins interesting is their oath, and I'm really curious to see what his is,
Mm-hmm.
because that determines the flavor of paladin that you're playing. I think a great example of that is in season 2 of Unsleeping City. You have two paladins. One is Ricky, and the other is Cody.
Yeah.
And it is, and like, so you get two very different kinds of paladins and two different kinds of stories. And so I'm very curious to see what kind of paladin Lou's playing.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. At the same time, I know Critical Role has their weekly recaps, written recaps of here's what happened. If you don't have time to, sit down for the whole story or something like that, or even if you do, but you may be zoned out or something. I hope they get to a point with, or I hope the community, and I imagine it will, gets to a point with Worlds Beyond Number where they have a similar thing of okay, if I want to just hop in and read a synopsis of this event, or especially if it is, okay, what happened? Where did the last one leave off? Let's try and figure that out. Having a quick resource like that, I think would be helpful. But also just shout out to how successful that Patreon is, and how it's very simple. Obviously $5,
That's it.
And that's the only tier they have. But they have I think upwards of 20,000 subscribers at this point already.
Oh, I haven't seen. I was trying to look for that because I was like, how successful are they?
I think that was what I saw, a month in or so, was they got up super high as a result of that. So, just super, super happy for them, and just all of the wishing them all the success moving forward, because that's going to be just good times. I'm trying to pull it up on my oh god per my phone, pulling it up right now, 28,379 patrons.
There you go.
At $5 a month, they're making a good penny to help support just the wonderful creative work they're doing. So very, very happy and excited to see more of that. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here, Cam?
The only final thoughts I kind of have about this are in regards to Worlds Beyond Number. I just, once again, to emphasize the idea that we get to have a group of people as talented as this producing content and really doing it for the love of the game, doing it because they have for years wanted to tell stories together in this kind of long form environment. And I'm so excited to hear this. I'm so excited to see this world that Brennan is building and has come up with. And then also, I can't wait for the moment where Brennan gets to be a player in a long form game. I'm very excited.
Yeah, agreed. That'll be a ton of fun. And in the same vein, not only is it really exciting getting to see the long form version of a Brennan story, but also the truly fantasy version of a Brennan story. Well, yes, it has heavily Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli influences and stuff like that. It is it's not a reskin of let's do D&D, but it's a John Hughes film like Fantasy High or something like that, or Unsleeping City, New York. He's just going full in on crazy fantasy stuff, and I given that he's been doing that for 25 years, I'm very excited to see what that looks like in this version. Cool.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%.
That I think is going to do it for this episode. Thank you for joining me, Cam. Let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's, 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out to Trevor's Legend of Zelda Let's Play series that's over on youtube.com/thatnerdy site. It's been awesome seeing him kind of like not fall in love with the game again, so much as just getting
learn to tolerate it this time.
a little bit more than that. Like, you definitely found like your groove with that game, and I think that's been very like it's been very enjoyable to see that. Kind of like your like the additional effort that you're putting into it, other than just like the bare minimum of like doing let's plays for it. You've really, I think, hit your stride with this game. So
yeah. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will echo that, and I will also, in turn, shout out Cameron's Star Wars Jafo Let's Play series, Jedi Fallen Order, that he is playing in advance of Jedi Survivor coming out later this year. Go check that out. We now have those episodes dropping on Wednesdays, alongside Elden Ring Tuesdays and my Breath of the Wild Thursdays for the time being. So check out all those fun Let's Plays, youtube.com/thatnerdysite. You follow all of us over at thatnerdysite.com or thatnerdysite on Twitter. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.